When SeaWorld Orlando announced Pipeline the Surf Coaster, everyone was confused. Why would SeaWorld revive the stand-up coaster? Wasn't that already a dead concept? But little did they know, this would be a very unique ride experience that was completely different from the stand-ups of the past. The main innovation in Pipeline is the trains. The trains have a special feature where they bounce up and down, which is unique from other stand-up coasters, which makes Pipeline stand out and gives you a different type of ride experience, more focused on airtime and the seat moving compared to positive G's of the old stand-ups. The layout really caters to this, focusing more on airtime moments and not having that many positive G's, which are uncomfortable in the stand-up position. The layout also has a lot of turns, which are fun to go above the paths in the whole area that SeaWorld built around this coaster. So now let's go into ranking this coaster in some categories to give it a final score to determine objectively how good it is. The first category is airtime. Now, this ride has some of the most unique feeling airtime in the industry, but it doesn't have much. There are only a few airtime moments throughout the ride, but these airtime moments are really fun and different from other airtime moments on other coasters. You don't normally find airtime on stand-up coasters, but I think it's a welcome addition to the model. So I will be giving this category a 7 out of 10 for having some really fun and unique airtime, but it just doesn't have enough airtime throughout the layout to make it an elite airtime coaster. The next category is intensity. I don't think this coaster is very intense. It doesn't have many elements that focus on positive G's, and the airtime doesn't really give you that much intensity. It's more of a family thrill coaster, which can cater to families, so it doesn't have that much intensity. So I'd give it a 3 out of 10 in intensity because it really isn't intense. But I think this ride shouldn't be super intense because on other stand-up coasters, positive G's are not very comfortable. So the intensity isn't really a downside, but I still have to give it a 3 out of 10 in this category because it's not very intense. Another issue with this ride is the length. It has less than 3,000 feet of track, and I think that's just not enough. This also plays into the issue with the airtime, that it doesn't have enough airtime moments. This is because it just doesn't have the length to facilitate more airtime. I know this is a prototype, and they're not usually that long, but the ride experience feels very short, and it doesn't really pack that much into its ride experience. So I'm going to be giving it a 5 out of 10 in terms of length. There are coasters that are shorter, but this one I wish it was longer, but the length is okay, and it's not that bad compared to what it could have been. Presentation is a category where I think, contrary to some other people's beliefs, that this coaster excels at. The area is very nicely landscaped, and I like the beach area that they were going for with the whole plaza that is built around this coaster. It really looks nice and fits into the park very well. The coaster also looks great when you're in the area, going around you, and the trains and the color scheme also look really good from off and on ride. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 in this category because it's presented well, but it doesn't really have theming. It sort of has an area and a feeling around the area that's good, but it doesn't have any theming about surfing. It's sort of just you're in this area and there's a coaster that you're supposed to be surfing on. Originality, I think, is this coaster's best part because it really is an experience you can't find anywhere else. The trains are really different from any other trains I've experienced, and the airtime feels different from any other coaster. This will eventually be less original as more surf coasters are built, but now it's a one-in-the-world experience that you can only find in SeaWorld. So I'm going to be giving this coaster a 10 out of 10 because it's just so different from any other coaster that I've seen, and it really changes my perspective of how stand-up coasters can be, and is a real innovation in the stand-up coaster market, which previously stand-ups haven't been built. But I hope this revives stand-up coasters, so it's a very original, unique ride. The restraints are your standard B&M vest restraints. I'm not a big fan of these restraints because they go really tightly over your body, and after a few rides, your shoulders can start to hurt. The vest is also pretty stiff, and it hurts a bit after you go on multiple rides. But it's not the worst thing ever because there isn't headbanging, and you feel pretty open with these restraints. I'd give them a 4 out of 10. They're not especially comfortable, but they're not really that uncomfortable to ride. In terms of standout elements, I think the best element on this ride is the airtime hill after the overbanked turn. This hill gives you a lot of airtime and is the first time you really feel what this coaster can do with its seating position. But I don't think this is really a coaster focused on standout elements. The ride mainly blends together, and you can't really pick out each individual element, which for me is a bad thing because there's not really a part which stands out and is super good compared to the rest of the ride. But the airtime hill is still really good, so I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 because it has a standout element that's really good, but the rest of the ride sort of blends together and doesn't really give you more wow moments in the ride. The combined score is a 6 out of 10, which I think is fair, but I would give it a 7 or a 7.5 because it really is a unique ride experience. This coaster ranks high in my rankings just because it's such an amazingly new concept and feels totally different, and was a complete surprise from a lackluster stand-up coasters from the past. But a 6 out of 10 seems objectively correct because Originality can't really completely carry a coaster. It still needs a good layout and good standout elements and good restraints to really carry it to an amazing level of greatness like other coasters. Still, this is a great ride, and I would recommend everyone to go out to SeaWorld Orlando to ride this if you haven't already. So that's the review of Pipeline the Surf Coaster. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and comment what you think about this coaster and give it your score. I know I'm a bit more negative in this review than other people have been to this coaster, but I think I have a point about it being not a very good ride, but the originality really carries it. But still, it's a great ride, and thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.